G'day, Dev here, and I might be done casting the November Major for Europe, but I'm not done talking about it. We've had a pretty crazy event so far, much closer than a lot of people had anticipated, and in the lead up to the Grand Final, I want to talk about Empire versus BDS. Now, both teams qualified yesterday. We saw Empire versus BDS in the upper bracket final. Now, Empire took that. I think that was surprising everybody. A lot of people had expected with BDS's incredibly strong run so far through EUL and through the last major that they would have been favored, but BDS did lose that match to Team Empire. However, BDS dropped down to the loser bracket, beat Virtus Pro, and now they're qualified for the grand final. But that does, of course, leave Empire with that one map advantage. I'm going to get into that in a minute. But BDS, no doubt, have been the best team in EUL thus far. Already won last major, so why would I think that Empire is going to win? Now, this is the first match that we're going to see these teams play together, which is going to be a best of 5 map veto. Now, there's a 1 map advantage. That means that Empire only needs to win 2 maps, whereas BDS will need to win 3. Now, that's really important, as well as how the best of 5 veto system works. So I'll explain that right now. Contrasting to how we've seen some best of 5s in the past operate, this best of 5, as with the last major, will operate on a pick, ban, pick, and then decider, which would be the default win system. So that means that both of these teams get to choose 1 map before the other team gets to ban. That's really important here because it affects what Empire is able to pick. How it also works is we've got a coin flip which will determine which team gets that first ban, and that's also going to be really important, but it is just a 50-50 coin flip, of course. So I'm going to talk about the 2 different possibilities of who wins the coin flip and what I think that will mean for what maps get played and who wins each of those maps. So firstly, let's assume Empire win the coin flip. Firstly, they're going to pick Consulate, in my opinion. BDS banned it in the previous map veto between these 2 teams. I can show you that over here. And Consulate has been a pretty good map for Empire in the past. If you look back at their match history, they beat 2 teams during the EUL, G2 and Rogue right there, very convincing 7-2s. And BDS, it's not a bad map for them. If you look at their previous history, they've beat Rogue and Virtus Pro in the previous major, they beat Temperate in the French League, but clearly BDS they're scared of Empire on this map because of Empire's successes against G2 and Rogue. So I think that if Empire want to, they could pick that. Now, they might instead pick Coastline, which is what they did yesterday, but I'm just going to assume that they're going to pick Consulate, and following that, BDS will no doubt pick Oregon. I think that they will win that. It's a very strong map for BDS. Yesterday, they beat Empire on it very convincingly in a 7-3, and I expect something very similar. BDS's basement attacks are just too strong. I don't think Empire is going to be able to adapt. Following that, we have the bans. Now, both teams insta-ban Theme Park. Now, I assume that whoever gets the first ban, in this case Empire, will just get rid of Theme Park. They're not going to try and take the risk of letting BDS ban it. They're going to ban it themselves. And that's going to leave BDS with a real ban rather than just an insta-ban, and I think they'll get rid of Coastline, which is what Empire picked yesterday and very handily beat BDS on. However, that does leave Empire now with a second pick, and they can pick Cafe, which was the 3rd map yesterday, which Empire very convincingly beat BDS on. And I think that Empire is likely to win that. Now, I'll finish off the map veto. In my opinion, the next map that we'll see BDS pick will be Villa, because even though it hasn't been a great map for them in the past, and they have insta-banned it during EUL, they finally managed to beat Virtus Pro on it yesterday, so I think that BDS have started to become more comfortable on that. That, of course, leads Clubhouse as the decider, which will not be played. That'll be a default win. Bit sad because Clubhouse is both these teams' best map, arguably, so it would be really nice to see that, but maybe we will get to see it later. I'll touch on that. So if this ends up being the map veto, Empire banning first, I definitely see this as an Empire 2-1 victory. So Consulate, I don't see many reasons why BDS would be good on that. The fact that they banned it yesterday means that they're scared of Empire, so I think that Empire picking Consulate or Coastline, whichever one they end up picking here, BDS will ban the other one. I think Empire will win that. I don't think it will be a landslide though. BDS are a really good team at adapting. We saw what they did yesterday against Virtus Pro in the Villa match where they brought that Amaru to counter strat, and overall BDS just such a solid team that I think any maps that Empire win will be reasonably close. So Consulate for Empire, I think that's pretty said and done. Likewise, I think BDS are guaranteed to win Oregon. I don't think there's anything Empire can do, even if they play really aggressively like they tried to yesterday with the Clash. I don't think that'll work. And then we get to a Cafe. Empire at 2-1 because they have that default win. I think they're going to win Cafe as well. Again, it could be close, but I would see that if Empire end up getting the coin flip, they win in a 3-1 with 2 map wins and 1 default win. Now, what happens if BDS win the coin flip? That's a question that I've been thinking about, and it doesn't change a lot, but it does change a little bit, depending on how things work. So firstly, very much similar to the previous map veto, we're definitely going to see an Oregon pick from BDS. It's just, I don't see any way that Empire wins Oregon, and that's really cool. It means that no matter who gets the first pick in this map veto, we're guaranteed that both teams will win one map, in my opinion. Following that, Empire are likely to pick Consulate or Coastline, like I was saying before. And this is where it gets a little bit different, diverts from the previous time we saw the map veto with Empire banning first, is that BDS are likely to get rid of Theme Park. It's both these teams insta-ban, as I said before, and I don't think either team will let it through. It's a big risk. Now, there is a chance here that BDS will let it slip through and force Empire to ban it, in which case this map veto will look identical, in my opinion, to the one I just showed you where Empire bans first. But let's assume BDS plays it safe and gets rid of Theme Park. Then we're likely to see Empire ban out Villa, which, as I was saying before, is a fairly good map these days for BDS, and that does limit BDS's options a little bit because they're looking at Clubhouse, Coastline, which they're definitely not going to pick because that's a good map for Empire, Cafe, which I definitely think they won't pick, and so I think they're going to go with Clubhouse, which is what I really hope happens because, as I was saying, best map for both these teams. I think that that'll be very, very close. I think that that will likely go to overtime and be a BDS win, which would leave the scoreline at this point with Oregon going BDS's way, Consulate going Empire's way, and Clubhouse going barely towards BDS at a 2-2, and we will need the final map. That will definitely be Coastline. In my opinion, could be Cafe, but likely to be Coastline. Cafe ends up being the unplayed decider. Coastline's just a really good map for Empire, as we saw yesterday. I can actually show you that match. It was a convincing, well, maybe not super convincing, but a 7-5 for Empire, and I overall definitely think that Empire looked like the better team. BDS had a strong defensive half, but their attacks were just absolutely horrendous. So I definitely think Empire will win that, and that's kind of what I hope happens. If BDS get the coin flip, we see them take Oregon Clubhouse, we see Empire win Consulate and Coastline, and that will mean that it ends up being a final map, full map series as long as it gets. I hope we see this because I hope it means that we'll get to see Clubhouse, which is the best map for both these teams. But either way, I think it will be a fairly tight game, but I'm still predicting Empire to win. Now, what are the surprises that we could expect? Well, the first thing is always a possibility that one team just flops. The pressure gets to them and they just don't show up in the grand final. It's what we saw in the APAC Major Grand Final last Major in August, where Giants just really did not show up against Cloud9. They even got 7-0 on one map. So I really hope that doesn't happen, but that is one thing that we have to allow for. Secondly, the surprise that could happen is that one of the teams bluffs Theme Park and decides not to ban it despite banning first. And that will mean that if in this case it's BDS who bluffs it and doesn't ban it, then we will get to see Villa. And that would be really cool, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either. I think that Theme Park's just going to be a safe ban for whoever gets that first ban. The third thing is that Empire could not pick Consulate and pick Coastline instead. I think that doesn't really change the results. I would favor them on both maps. And the last thing that might change my predictions is whether BDS can win Consulate, Coastline, or Cafe. They just need to win one of those, and in my opinion, BDS takes the series. I don't think that they will win any of those maps, but I think they will all be very, very tight, and Empire should win it. The one thing I hope out of all this is that we get to see Clubhouse, because that would be such a good game where both these teams show off their best map. Overall, what can we take away from this? Well, for Empire, the map advantage is everything. In my mind, they only really have 2 maps that they're guaranteed to win here, and BDS only have Oregon and Villa, but they only get to pick one before Empire bans the other. And then Clubhouse as well, in my eyes, will probably swing BDS's way. So that map advantage for Empire really is everything, and that's how important it was. It was so important that they won the upper bracket final yesterday. Secondly, the pick before ban system is really important because it means that I'm fairly certain that both teams will win at least one map in this series. We will not have a 3-0. We won't have a 3-1 in BDS's favor, thanks to the map advantage from Empire. I think that we're definitely going to see each team actually win a map. And unless if BDS does something crazy and surprises me, either subverting with the Theme Park ban or winning Consulate, Coastline, or Cafe, I think Empire will win. So that makes me wonder, did we underestimate Empire coming into this event? BDS, we looked at them and we thought, well, they're the Giants of Europe. The number of memes I saw about the Grim Reaper, BDS, destroying everyone in Europe and all the other regions, being so happy there aren't international events because they don't have to play against BDS. It does make me wonder, maybe we underestimated Empire here, because if you look at the stage 2 of the regular season, Empire, they came in only narrowly ahead of Tempera, but keep in mind, Empire actually forfeited one match due to internet problems against Vitality. I would have 100% favored Empire to win that and get 3 points, in which case they would have been on 19, only just behind BDS, and in fact closer to BDS than they were to Tempera. So it does make me wonder, maybe we underestimated these guys, and coming into this event, I've been really impressed with their current form. The other thing I'm wondering is maybe BDS aren't quite as safe as we think. 7-1-1 is a crazy scoreline throughout stage 2, but it looks like that Empire here to ruffle some feathers. So I'm definitely keen to see what is going to eventuate. There's a lot of different possibilities, but I think overall I'm pretty set on that Empire win. I'm not trying to be biased. I think BDS is still one of the best teams, if not the best team, but Empire with that map advantage and with this map video system, it's going to be huge from BDS, a huge task, and I don't think they're up for it. So we'll see. Make sure you guys tune in tonight for the grand final, but also for the Neon Dawn full announcement. I'm really excited. I've already seen all the stuff, and I can tell you for damn sure it's going to be really, really good, not just for everyone who plays the game regularly, casual players, but it's going to be really good for the meta of Rainbow Six as a whole. A lot of the changes coming, not just in the new operator Aruni and the new map rework Skyscraper, but also in all the little designer note changes that are coming, whether it be or other things that are coming. So yeah, make sure you guys tune in for that. But anyway, I'm Dev, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in chat.